Welcome. Let's solve Leetcode 2364, count number of bad pairs. Okay, let's make this bigger so we can read it. So we're given a zero-indexed integer array nums. A pair of indices ij is a bad pair if I is less than j and j minus I does not equal nums of j minus nums at I. Return the total number of bad pairs in nums. Okay, so in this first example, we're given nums 4, 1, 3, 3, and the pair 0, 1 is a bad pair because 1 minus 0, which is our indices, does not equal 1 minus 4, which is their values. So again, that's what it is here: the indices minus the values, where the later index comes first. So 0, 2, so 2 minus 0 is 2, does not equal 3 minus 4. So these are bad pairs. Whenever they're not equal, they're considered bad, and that's what they want. They want us to return the bad pairs. So we'll just go over one more of these. So 0, 3, so 3 minus 0 are the indices minus, so 0 and 3, so 3 minus 0 is 3, but 3 minus 4 is negative 1, so they're not equal. Okay, so that's what they want us to do, is just count these up and then return them. Okay, that's straightforward enough. So what we'll do to solve this is we'll use an indirect approach, meaning instead of counting the number of bad pairs, what we'll do is count the number of, so we know the total number of pairs equals the good plus bad. So what we can do is if we manipulate this equation, we can say total minus good equals bad. And that's what we'll be doing. We'll be trying to figure out the total number of pairs minus the good pairs. And we'll return that instead. Well, we know the total number of pairs. That's equal to this formula, or the total number of pairs, which can be calculated using this formula here. So n, which is the number of elements, times n minus 1 divided by 2. So in this case, we have 4 elements, so that would be 4 times 4 minus 1, which is 3, divided by 2, which gives us 6. And in this case, the good number of pairs, there's only one. It happens to be at index 1 and index 3. So in this case, well, this would be what? ij, which would be 1, 3, which gives us, so that would give us 3 minus 1 equals, and then so the value is 3 and the value is 1. So 2 does equal 2. So this would be considered a good pair. So and if you notice, so there's only one. So we would have total minus good, which equals 6 minus 1, which equals 5, which is what they expected here. So that's how we'll be solving this problem. Okay, so the question is, how do we calculate the number of good pairs? So if you notice, though, we can kind of manipulate this formula here. So the formula they tell us is j minus I equals nums of j minus nums of I. We can kind of manipulate this formula to get nums of j minus j equals nums of I minus I. So if we manipulate this formula here that they originally provided us here, we can calculate or count how many occurrences do we have of this. So if you notice here in this situation, for this nums at index 1 is 0 for this formula. So we'd have the value minus index, which is 0. And this is at index 1. But we also have at index 3 the same thing. We have the value, which is 3, minus the index, which is also 0. This is the only two values in the entire, if we pairwise have the same value. So what we'll do is we will count the number of occurrences for the formula. I'm just call this value at index minus index, which is basically this here. So it's the value at the index minus that index. So we'll be calculating this here. And we'll keep a count, and then once we know the count, we can use this formula here. I'm going to call it v times v minus 1 divided by 2. And this would be the number of good pairs associated with that count. Okay, so let's kind of get started. All right. So first, let's figure out the value of n here. So n equals the length of nums. And then we'll instead of using total, I'll use the word answer. Answer equals n times n minus 1 divided by 2. And then we'll just return the answer. And we'll get the counter for all of these. We'll calculate all of these for every index. So we'll just call it C equals counter of nums of I minus I for I in range. Okay. And let's just print C for now. So notice our count here, we have 2. And that's why you need 2 numbers for us to have a pair. When there's only 1, that's not a pair. So remember, we need to return the count of the bad pairs. So when we have 2, that's a pair, at least. You can make at least 1 pair from 2. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so now let's loop through our counts. So for, and we only really care about the values. So for v in c dot values, we don't really care what the difference is between the value and the index. So we can subtract, and these would be the count of good pairs. So we would subtract v times v minus 1 divided by 2. So remember, this is the total number of pairs, and as we loop through these, we keep subtracting the number of good pairs, and what we're left with is the number of bad pairs. So let's test it. Okay, looks good. Let's submit it. Okay, looks pretty good. Let's just erase these comments, because sometimes I believe comments add to the time complexity, or not to the time complexity, but at least the overall timing. And just for full closure, looks like the runtime. So here we're looping through the entire index, which is O of n, and then we again, at the most, this is also O of n. So time complexity for this would be, so we'll just call it time would be big O of n. And space, what are we doing here? For space complexity, we're again storing for the size, so it possibly can be the same size. So this can, worst case scenario, it would be O of n as well. Okay, not too bad. All right, so now let's move on to, let's also implement this in C++. So let's do that. Let me just delete this here. I actually did this problem, but the video malfunctioned. We'll just go with that. So we'll just go with that there. Okay. So now let's solve it in C++. So instead of a count, in Python they provide a counter for you, but we'll have to manually do that here. So we'll say an unordered map, an int, and we'll just call this maybe count as well. C++ also has an ordered map, but the orderedness wouldn't really help in this situation, so we'll just use an unordered map. Okay, so now let's store the length of this nums. So it can be long equals nums dot size. Then we'll manually count the, I don't know how to call it differences, but whatever, we'll count for every index, we'll count the value minus the index. So int I equals 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Okay, so here's our counts. Sorry. It's not count, it's count. And then we'll just return our answer. Let's initialize our answer. Okay, so there's our initialized answer. And now we'll subtract all of the good pairs from this answer. Okay, so we'll say answer minus equals we may have a casting issue, but I'm going to try it without it and see if it works. Okay, let's try that. Okay, looks good. However, the values from the test cases are rather small, so there may be a chance that the type issue is exposed during the test cases, or sorry, the actual submission. Okay, so let's stop that there. Looks like it's causing an issue there. Can't really stop it. Let me see if I refresh this here. It might be a buffer overflow that just kind of crashed the system. Okay. So what we'll do is my browser seems to be stuck at the moment. Let's try refreshing this again. Wow. My apologies. I should have just cast it before. Let me just close this one here. Maybe if I go back. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll cast it before. Okay, so let's cast it here. So we'll say We'll cast it there, and let's see if that helps. Oh, my apologies. Okay, let's try that. P dot second times and direction requires pointer operand. Oh, why do I have a two? Why do I have two? Sorry, I don't know how I got there. All right, let's try that again. Okay, that's better. I wonder why it took so long. Let's see if I made a mistake here. I think this is all good. This is fine. This is fine. I think that's just it's okay. I'll just submit it again. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it solves the problem, and yeah, that's better. It just sometimes the timing on Leetcode is somewhat arbitrary. In any case, if you found this video helpful or beneficial, please consider liking or subscribing. I do want to point out that I think it truly is beneficial to know how to implement these solutions in more than one language. I really believe that, and I encourage you to also do the same. Okay, other than that, have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. Cheers.